everybody. It's Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. I'm so glad you guys could join me today for another video in my masterclass on one sheet wonder projects. So today we're going to talk about that mass producing of Christmas cards. Oh my gosh, if you're like me, I've got a really long list of cards that I need to make. I have some really special cards that I send to family and really close friends, but let's face it, we want to send those hand stamped cards to a lot of people. Today, we're going to talk about how we can mass produce and very quickly mass produce some really incredible Christmas cards. And get this, guys, we're doing it with one sheet of 12 by 12 designer series paper. We're not making one or two cards. We are making 26 cards, you guys, 26 cards, one piece of designer series paper. And you know what? They're not boring cards either. I mean, just look at these. It's very simple. I have a little stamping on the inside to wish them a Merry Christmas. And you see that nice little window down there at the bottom. That kind of makes it a little extra special. But it doesn't matter what you do. These are still going to be able to be made very, very quickly. So we're going to head over to my stamping table and we're going to get to creating 26 Christmas cards. So to create 26 cards, we do need some supplies, right? Let's talk about that. The first thing you're going to need are 13 sheets of basic white thick 8.5 by 11. To prepare all of those pieces, we are going to score the cardstock at 5.5 inches, and then you're going to rotate it around to 4 1/4, and then you will cut at 4 1/4, and you see, boom, boom, we have 2 card bases. Let's repeat that with all of those 13 pieces of the basic white thick so we get our card bases. You're also going to need some real red cardstock, and you're going to need about 3 1/4 sheets. So let me show you how we're going to cut this one down. It's very simple. We're going to cut it in half at 4 1/4. We're going to take those 2 halves and we'll cut those at 2 1/8. And then we'll take those 2 halves and we're going to cut those in half to 5.5 inches. So watch this. There's 2, there's 4. I just want you to see how fast it is to create these little card bases. We'll cut this one now to the 2 1/8 there, and again at 5.5. And you're going to need 26 of these. So 3 sheets will get you 24. So you're just going to need a couple more. But there we go. That's what you need. 26 pieces, 2 1/8 by 5.5 of real red. The star of my cards today is the Painted Christmas Designer Series paper. And like I told you at the beginning, we need one sheet of 12 by 12. And what we're going to do to this is we're going to cut this down to 12 inches by 11 inches. So I'm cutting 1 inch off. So I have a 1 inch by 12. Now I'm going to take what's remaining here and we're going to cut it down to 5.5 inches. So I should now have 2 equal pieces that are 5.5 by 12. Guys, I actually found with the Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer, you are fine to cut through 2 sheets or, 2 layers of this designer series paper. I'm going to line it up there with the 1 inch, and that you can see is cutting 2. These are 1 inch by 5.5, but I'm cutting 2 at the same time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you see where I'm going. We're going to get all of these cut. And remember that 1 inch strip that we cut? Let's cut that down. And with that, we're going to get these 2 at 5.5. And we now have 26 pieces of our Painted Christmas Designer Series paper. And so those are ready to go. We're going to add some adhesive down the back side of our Designer Series paper. And you're going to adhere that right in the middle of one piece of your real red. All right, I've been at this for about 3 minutes, and I think you can see what I like to do is add the adhesive all over the back of my designer series paper, get about 5 or 6 of them, with adhesive ready to go. And that way I can just kind of do well, like I said, kind of mass producing, going very quickly. So you can see how many I've got done. Now, guys, I'm simply going to take and tear. And I want to show you my tearing technique. I tear towards myself. And if you'll just give them short spurts of tear instead of trying to go all the way, just 1, 2, 3, 4, and I kind of give it a little twist so I get a little different detail going on there. We'll now do it to the other side. And I will tell you, this is one of those nice, relaxing little jobs. You could do this while you're binge watching some fabulous show on Netflix. And you'll have these done in no time. But there we go. There's one. Now, I want to show you another technique if you don't care for that rough edge. But this time I'm going to flip it over. And this time I'm going to kind of eyeball it on that side. And this time I'm going to tear the back side. And it's going to give me a very different look. So you decide which look you like the best. Again, kind of see right where to tear. About right there. By the way, with this being cut at that 2 1/8, you've got plenty of room for tearing. But I want you to see, and I'm going to zoom in. Let me bring both of these in and kind of zoom in. Can you see the difference in the two? So this one has that rougher edge. This one has a smoother edge. So you just decide which one you like the best. Like I said, this is a great time to go turn on some great music. Maybe it's time for the holiday music and just get yourself really in a tearing mood. Now, I did want to pop on just to tell you, if this tearing, if you just go, no, Connie, I just can't. It is not my thing. Well, let me tell you, I have a second option for you. And that is you could cut your real red cardstock to 1.5 inches by 5.5 inches and just adhere it. So if the tearing isn't your style, why don't you just cut them down? And again, you're going to save yourself even more time. But if you like that little bit of tearing edge, it really has not taken me that long to do. Hey, if you missed any of the measurements for my cards, not to worry. If you will look down in that YouTube description, there's a link that'll take you directly to today's blog post that will have all the information that you need. There's even a supply list. And hey, if you need to order any of the supplies, I would love to be your demonstrator. SimplySimpleStamping.com. You can order everything you need right there. Okay, let's get back to the cards. I got to tell you, it's a shame that all this tearing cannot be considered exercise, but I guess my thumb and index finger are going to be very thin by the time I'm done with this. All right, there we go. So I was able to adhere and tear all those in about, maybe 15 minutes. So it really did not take me that long to get all those pieces done. So now we're going to start to work on our card bases. And remember, we had 26 of those. So the first thing I want to do is I want to give all of these a nice crease with my bone folder. So let's go through all of our card bases. We'll give all those a fold, and then we're going to do a little die cutting. I say die cutting. If you have a punch, you could do this exact same thing. The technique I'm going to show you, you could do it with a punch as well. So before you do any die cutting, we do need to decide what stamp set we're going to use. I loved Words of Cheer, sending you Christmas cheer. For this card, you do want a little bit smaller sentiment. And then I loved this Happy Wishes to You and Yours. I also love the Wishing You a Joyful Christmas. So you've got some options here, which is really nice. I also love the little leaves, the little poinsettia leaves. So I thought those were great. Here's what we're going to do. So for my sentiment, I'm going to use a die. I'm using the Tasteful Labels dies. Love this one. And my sentiment just happened to fit perfect inside this one. Now, before I go and cut all of these, I do want to kind of get a visual of where my designer series paper and my torn cardstock is going to go. So as long as I can kind of see that I've torn all of these about the same, I have a general idea of where that needs to go. So let's die cut one to start. You're going to need base plate 1, thin die adapter 2, and 2 cutting plates, 2 of those, the number 3. So let's do 1, 2, and 3. We'll lay those together. I'll lay my cardstock on top. You notice it's open. And now I can lay my label, get that centered up, add my number 3 plate right on top. And then I can roll that through my die cutting machine. And now you see we have a wonderful little window cut from our cardstock. All right, I'm going to start with an evening evergreen ink pad, and inside my window, I'll say sending you Christmas cheer. And then with a real red ink pad, we're going to put our inside sentiment. So here we will say, wishing you a joyful Christmas. And then here off to the side, we can add some of those holly leaves. But for the inside of my holly leaves, I'm going to stamp off once because I just want that to be a little bit lighter, not quite so dark. So that looks really nice. Let's come back in with that real red and we'll add some holly berries there. And you know what? Let's add a few right here around my sentiment. Now we will take one of our strips and we're going to adhere that to the front. This is why I like to add it at the end. I get to kind of make sure I can center it up in between my window. There we go. Let's add one more bit of shimmer. I have 26 gold shimmer knots. So this didn't take a lot of ribbon, but this is going to add a lot to our cards. Just because they're simple doesn't mean they can't be beautiful and have that Christmas shine. And I'm just going to add that right there at the top. And that is what we need to do to the rest of our cards. So just like we've been doing with the assembly line, I'm now going to assembly line and cut out all of my labels. Then I'll do all my stamping. Then I'll do all my adhering, and then I will add all the bows. So I want to do those in order, and that way I'm not sitting here putting together each individual card. It really makes things go faster. And there we go. I just die cut all of my card bases. My windows are ready. So as I said, we're just going to assembly line. Now I can add all of my designer series paper. So I like to do about 6 pieces at a time, mainly just because of the space that I have. But I like to go ahead and get my adhesive here on the back of my already torn, ready to go. I can bring in my card bases and then I can just adhere and go. So it's not that stop, pick up your adhesive runner, keep going. You know, it just kind of makes everything go fairly quickly this way. Another thing I particularly like about this designer series paper is that there's not a right or wrong way. The leaves kind of go every which way. So I don't have to worry too much about whether or not I have the leaves going up, down, didn't matter how I cut it. So if you do use a designer series paper, see how those are going every which way, so it doesn't really matter where it goes. But if you are using a designer series paper that has a pattern, it has a certain direction, you will definitely want to pay attention to that pattern as you cut your designer series paper. So just a little tip before you start cutting that, any kind of pattern, make sure you're paying attention. Now that could possibly mean that you will only get 24 cards and not 26. So keep that in mind. All right, so once I have all those done, I kind of mentioned this earlier. This is where I kind of start to do my assembly line stamping. So I'm going to stamp my sentiment inside all of the windows. So once we've done all of the sending you Christmas cheer, let's come in. We'll add those red berries. Again, just assembly line. And when we have all of these done, then we can start to work on that inside sentiment. Now we'll come in and say, wishing you a joyful Christmas. And you notice I'm not adding the that little holly leaf and berries just yet. I don't like to put down the stamp when I'm on a roll. You know, we want to just get our sentiment here on the inside stamped. And by the way, you notice I'm kind of going off to the side. And I'm doing that so I can come in with that holly leaf. So it kind of balances things out. So we can add those to all 26 cards. I hope you're still with me. And now to add our splash of color to our holly leaves. So again, more than anything, I'm hoping, oops, I just messed that one up. I think that's okay, don't you? That's what I get for trying to talk and stamp at the same time. Now, when you are mass producing cards, mistakes will happen like this. Oh my gosh. So you can see I somehow landed my finger in the real red ink pad and smeared it. So let's talk about how to fix the boo-boos because it will happen. All right, first things first, you're going to go wash your hands and get that ink off of you so it doesn't happen again. And I have a piece of basic white cardstock, 4 by 5 1/4. And you can see we're just going to layer that right on top. So now what I want to do is I'm going to come back in and I'm going to stamp all my sentiments and my holly leaves and my holly berries. So let's add those. And now my card is repaired. Like I said, it happens, I think, with mass producing. I think because we get excited about going quickly. So take it slow, but there's always a repair. Okay, so I've got my cards all done, and let me show you what I've done here. This is my spool of mini glue dots, and I have just adhered a bunch of my gold shimmer ribbons on there, again, just to help speed things up. So now I can just pick them up and go. Again, it's just another time-saving skill. And yeah, you'll just keep repeating this until you're all out of bows, but all your cards will be complete. Are you wondering what I was going to do with all of those die cuts? Well, you know what? We took that stamp set. I stamped a little happy Christmas, added some of our gold trim, and there we go. I have 26, well, I will pretty soon after I get these stamped. I'm going to have 26 wonderful little Christmas tags for presents. We did it. 26 cards. I'm going to say that in the time it would take you to sit down and watch It's a Wonderful Life, you could probably have these done. So maybe you're more of a musical person, you're a white Christmas person, that's good too. One of my favorites, but why not spend some time getting your Christmas cards done, ready, out of the way? But what you're going to love about this technique is that we did it all with just one little piece, 12 by 12 piece of that painted Christmas designer series paper. And yeah, a little bit of stamping our cards for the holiday season. We've got a chunk done. So why not watch 2 movies and have 52 cards done, right? I hope that you were inspired and you're excited to make some Christmas cards. If you enjoyed today's video, I would love a thumbs up on YouTube. Thank you so much. And if you haven't subscribed, why not click that great big red subscribe button? Become a subscriber so YouTube can let you know when I'm back with a new video. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. I look forward to stamping with you next time. Bye-bye.